From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
You know what makes Barack Obama happy? Newt Gingrich's baggage. Newt has more baggage than the airlines. Freddie Mac helped cause the economic collapse, but Gingrich cashed in.
Iowa is awash in millions of dollars of negative campaign ads funded by super PACs leading up to tonight's caucus, the first real test of the 2012 election. We'll go to Iowa for the latest. We'll be joined by The Nation correspondent John Nichols, then Pity the Billionaire, the hard time swindle, and the unlikely comeback of the right. Best-selling author Thomas Frank joins us to discuss how the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression have brought about a conservative revival. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Obama has signed into law a $662 billion military spending bill that authorizes the government to indefinitely detain American citizens without trial. In a signing statement attached to the bill, Obama said he's signing the bill even though he had, quote, serious reservations with parts of the bill dealing with detention, interrogation, and prosecution of suspected terrorists. Sections of the bill were opposed by key members of the Obama administration, including Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, FBI Director Robert Mueller, and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. Human rights groups assailed Obama for backing down on his initial threat to veto the legislation. Ken Roth of Human Rights Watch said, quote, President Obama will go down in history as the president who enshrined indefinite detention without trial in U.S. law. Chris Anders of the American Civil Liberties Union has also been a vocal critic of the legislation. He recently appeared on Democracy Now!
This is so broadly written and will become a permanent feature of United States law so that 10 years, 20 years down the road, any president could still use this power to have the military pick up people and indefinitely detain them without charge or trial, potentially for years, potentially for life.
The defense bill also includes a provision to tighten sanctions on Iran by denying access to the U.S. financial system to any foreign bank that conducts business with the Central Bank of Iran. Last week, Iran threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz, a key Gulf passageway, if new sanctions are enacted. Earlier today, Iran threatened to take action if an unnamed U.S. aircraft carrier returns to the Persian Gulf. Iowa is holding the first caucuses of the 2012 presidential race today. The caucuses officially kick off the campaign for the Republicans to nominate a challenger to President Obama. If recent polls are accurate, three frontrunners have emerged in Iowa: former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, Texas Congressman Ron Paul, and former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. With backing from Christian evangelicals, Santorum has seen a surge in popularity in recent weeks.
I believe we're the best person to not just execute that plan and get this country turned around across the board, morally, culturally, economically, fiscally, as well as on our national security. But I think we're the best folks to take on Barack Obama and win this election.
Meanwhile, members of the Occupy movement in Iowa are continuing to stage actions against the Republican candidates and President Obama. On Monday, 12 protesters were arrested after staging a die-in at a Des Moines hotel where the Democratic National Committee is setting up a communications war room. 18 more people were arrested Saturday during a protest against money in politics. We'll have more on Iowa after headlines. Here in New York, at least 500 Occupy Wall Street demonstrators temporarily reclaimed Zuccotti Park New Year's Eve. Demonstrators piled barricades in the center of the park that was once home to the protest movement's encampment. In the course of the action, a protester allegedly cut a police officer's hand with a pair of scissors. Protester Zachary Miller was arrested and charged with felony assault. Miller could face up to 7 years in prison. The NYPD said 68 people were arrested after the demonstrators took part in a winding march through lower Manhattan. There were complaints the police interfered with journalists attempting to cover the event in violation of a memorandum issued from Police Commissioner Ray Kelly over a month ago. A video posted to YouTube shows an officer threatening to confiscate the credentials of New York Times reporter Colin Moynihan after he was shoved by an NYPD captain. Meanwhile, a prominent source for Occupy Wall Street's global outreach and live streaming was reportedly shut down by the New York police last night. Global Revolution, a website which has broadcast Occupy Wall Street coverage since the movement's inception in September, claims it received an eviction notice at its Brooklyn studios Monday night. The notice states the production space is, quote, imminently perilous to life, and adds, quote, violators of the commissioner's vacate order are subject to arrest. In international news, Iraq Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki declared a national holiday Saturday to mark the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq after nearly 9 years after the U.S. invasion.
أعلن هذا اليوم 31 من شهر كانون الأول.
I announce that on this day, December 31st, which coincides with the complete pullout of all foreign troops from Iraq, is declared a national day. It is Iraq's day. It is a celebratory day for all Iraqis. It is the dawn of a new day, witnessed by Mesopotamia, to which everyone has contributed. It is with the effort of all Iraqis and to the benefit of all Iraqis.
Egypt's chief prosecutor has accused ousted leader Hosni Mubarak of imposing a tyrannical rule during his nearly 30 years in power. Mubarak's back in court this week on charges of killing more than 800 protesters during the uprising last year. On Monday, Mubarak was wheeled into the courthouse on a stretcher. Meanwhile, the Egyptian military is defending the recent raids of the offices of 17 human rights and civil society groups, including 3 organizations funded by the U.S. government. A top Egyptian official accused the groups of operating without permission in violation of a Mubarak-era law. Heba Morayev of Human Rights Watch criticized the raids.
Well, I think it's a reflection of where we stand right now in Egypt. There's been a narrowing of political space for critical voices. We saw this early on in the year as the authorities started to crack down on peaceful protests, as they started to arrest and imprison bloggers, and then summon journalists on charges of insulting the military, some direct interference with the media. And of course, NGOs were always next on the list because they're the ones who've been documenting torture, exposing the abuses, and calling for military accountability.
In news from Africa, a group of Nigerian protesters marched in the Niger Delta Saturday, calling on Royal Dutch Shell to do more to clean up last month's massive oil spill. 13 villages in the Niger Delta have already been affected by the spill, the largest in Nigeria in over a decade. Protesters said the spill is killing fish in the ocean.
The pollution is there. The problem is there. So we cannot go to the river. And being as we base on fishing, there is no any other way we can live with our family. Please and please, in order peace to reign, let federal government look into this problem immediately.
In other news from Africa, Senegalese music star Youssou N'Dour has announced plans to run against the Senegalese president in next month's election. The 85-year-old current president has ruled Senegal for 11 years. Police in New York City are searching for a man believed to be responsible for firebombing 3 homes, a business, and an Islamic community center in and around Queens. On Sunday evening, a security camera captured images of a hooded man throwing a Molotov cocktail at a home that houses a small Hindu temple. The second attack occurred at a prominent Islamic community center where roughly 100 people were worshiping. The third target was a corner store owned by an immigrant from Yemen, and another attack took place at the home of a Christian family. Another bomb was thrown at a home just across the Nassau County border. There were no injuries reported in the attacks. Federal authorities have joined an investigation into a fire at a Florida abortion clinic previously targeted with violence. The FBI, along with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, are looking into a fire that gutted the American Family Planning Clinic in Pensacola, Florida, early Sunday. There were no injuries reported in the incident, though the building was heavily damaged. Formerly known as the Ladies Center and as Community Health Care Center, the clinic pays off-duty police officers to guard the facility. The clinic was previously bombed in 1984, and 10 years later, a doctor and volunteer were shot to death as they arrived at the building. Police in Los Angeles have arrested a German man in connection with a wave of 53 arson fires targeting cars and homes. Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa announced the arrest.
Around 3 a.m., the Sheriff's Department detained a 24-year-old man named Harry Burkhart, who has subsequently been charged with 1 count of arson of an inhabited dwelling and is currently being held without bail. We expect that as the investigation continues, he will face additional charges.
Officials said Harry Burkhart's mother is said to be facing deportation. Burkhart had recently attended an immigration hearing with her, at which he reportedly broke into an anti-American tirade. The body of an Iraq War veteran suspected of killing a park ranger in Mount Rainier National Park was found in chest-deep snow Monday. Authorities believe Benjamin Colton Barnes fled to the remote area following a shooting that left 4 people wounded near Seattle and a separate shooting that resulted in the death of park ranger Margaret Anderson. The shootings led to a massive manhunt. Barnes is believed to have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and suicidal thoughts. And seismologists believe a pair of earthquakes that rocked Ohio recently may have been the results of the controversial natural gas extraction process known as hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. A 4.0 magnitude earthquake shook the city of Youngstown Saturday, 1 week after another quake shook a nearly identical location. Both sites are at the bottom of a 9,200-foot deep disposal well where waste from fracking had been injected under pressure. The quakes were the 10th and 11th to occur near the well since March. Links between fracking sites and earthquakes have also been noted in Texas, Arkansas, Colorado, and Oklahoma. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.